So I'd like to talk a little more about what people term sickness. And in A Course in Miracles, it says, as a definition, that sickness is function unfulfilled. And if your function is happiness, and if your singular purpose is forgiveness, then it's what you have not given in any situation that can be lacking. And so I find that the quickest way to allow myself to become aligned in a holistic experience in the moment, what we would call body, mind, spirit, is to allow myself to not let anything of time and space tell me I can't be fully in my function. So really, it's where you would be using a circumstance in form as a limitation from answering your calling that you need to watch for. And this is very exciting because there are no circumstances under which you cannot forgive. There are no circumstances under which you cannot be happy. And that is really a testament to your devotion to this pathway and to this awakening experience of transcending time and space and all limitations that you perceive as this limited sense of self that you are as a person. So I like to look at the beliefs that have come into play and the desires that are there that might be actually blocking me getting into my function of forgiveness and accepting the atonement for myself. I mean, it's even easier than forgiveness because you're only asked to accept that forgiveness has already happened, that you're already forgiven. Just accept that. That's all you're asked to do to be fully in your function. And once you're fully in that function, all experiences are in alignment because nothing is out of accord. You're not limited. And in the Course it says, it is not that you are to be without limitations, but you are not to be limited by them. So it's not that this is a problem inherently in and of itself. You're asked to use every time there seems to be a block of some kind in front of you to see that you're not limited by that it's a shift in your mind, in your perception, in your experience that's called for in order for you to embrace your function of happiness. And so accept that forgiveness has already happened rather than that there's something happening to you. And when you get very clear on what your backdrop guidance is and what your backdrop prompt is, then it's really easy for you to become sparkly and engaged in the moment with that. And I've spoken to people before and saying, but I can't because. And I'm like, really? Are you sure? And they're like, I can't because I'm in a wheelchair right now. I've injured myself. And I said, are you sure? You're really sure you can't answer the one thing that's being asked of you? And we often find that when we work together and we take some time, that the very thing that has been limiting them, whether it's this idea of perhaps high blood pressure or diabetes, or that their leg is injured and that they've got a limp so that when they walk, it doesn't work so well. When you look at all of these, it's an invitation to a present moment joining that's called for, and an idea of service and a new interpretation of what true service is and what it looks like in the mind. And it takes you out of this getting attention and help in an egoic way and maudlin suffering, and allows you to transcend into a sense of giving by giving simply what you can. And what you can give is what's given for you to give in a moment. And it's that you're given to give over your misperceptions. You're given to give over your lack of trust. You're given to give over your perception that you could be limited in any way, and say, even though all of this seems terrible and like there's no way I could personally, of course, be able to share and extend anything right now, as I seem to be the one in need, I must be mistaken. I must be mistaken. There will be times in your life, in fact, when it is the very needing of the body's aid and your gracious giving of the opportunity for someone to come and support you that will be the giving. Perhaps you've been very independent your entire life. Perhaps you've been always physically healthy, whatever that means, and autonomous, and now you seem dependent and have no control, and there's a humbling that's occurring, and then there's a need to accept the help that's given from seeming a brother or a sister, and so that there's this heart opening called for. And what you can give is your availability to the Spirit to allow whatever needs to occur for awakening to happen without resistance. Without resistance. And really, when you see that resistance is just fear that somehow you'll be sacrificed, it's easier to understand. Rather than you're bad for being resistant, you're just afraid. And so if you ask the Spirit to help you see the conditions that you have imposed that are making you fearful, then they can be easily removed. But your fear cannot be removed because it is a way of you saying no. It is a way of you being in control and saying no. And you have to let your yeas be yeas and your noes be noes, and your nays be nays, in order to come back into this sense of true power in the mind. And in accepting that I am doing this to myself, it is not, and you are bad for it. It is an acceptance that this is what's making me feel safe. And you're always asked within any kind of counseling situation to not take people's crutches from them, because there's a reason they have the crutch beyond the initial hurt or injury. There's a reason it's become a way of connecting with people, a way of relating, an identity in people's lives. And you cannot involuntarily make people better, because that's not kind. That's not kind. That's not the reason that they have this seeming form limitation occurring for them. It's actually fear. And it's almost like as if you've put a rock over your head and now you're getting compressed and oppressed and smothered by this rock, but you forgot that you got under there to hide, to feel safe. And that's what fear is like. You've forgotten that you've pulled this over yourself so that you can feel safe. And as soon as you can recognize, oh, I'm doing this to myself, what is it I'm afraid of? And you join with the Spirit, then the Spirit can show you the conditions that you have put upon the seeming situation, and that can easily be removed when you look safely with the vision of the Spirit, without guilt, without shame, without blame. The guilt and the shame have to be risen into your awareness, and they have to be felt. They can't be avoided or pushed down or run away from. They have to be seen as not true. So it's really a moment of seeing that you see that they're not true. It's a moment of feeling them so that you can witness to the fact that it will not kill you to feel this shame. It will not kill you to feel this guilt for a moment. And this is so practical, because so much of the pain and shame is linked together and is keeping what we consider sickness in form going. But really it's just function unfulfilled. There's a way in which we're scared that if we forgive, even though it's already forgiven, if we accept the forgiveness that's been offered, that somehow somebody will get let off the hook somewhere, and that maybe we'll be to blame instead. And that's the fear of forgiveness, is that somebody will get away with something. We're simultaneously afraid we'll be found out, but we're also afraid that somebody will get away with something. And we don't even want ourselves to be that one who gets away with something. So here, once and for all, you have paid your dues. There is no punishment necessary for you in order for you to return to the awareness of the kingdom of heaven. You are welcome now. The prodigal son can come home right now. The prodigal son doesn't have to play out a long story of struggling hard in the world. The prodigal son is welcome home now, and you can come home right now. Forgiveness has already been granted because there was nothing done in the first place. God does not forgive because God does not condemn. But your acceptance that God does not condemn is all that remains. Your acceptance of that forgiveness, of that innate innocence that is yours and that you can never affect, no matter what you seem to do. So, get into your function. It's very fulfilling, and it doesn't look like anything in particular. And if it's got a form component to it, the Spirit will make that super obvious to you. And nothing in time and space will limit you being able to do it. Nothing, so don't fall for that trick. Acceptance of forgiveness is your function.